What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting they're possibilities for you to consider, in which you can then come up with your own logical conclusions.
There's nobody in the car. Wait, there's nobody.
What do you mean there's nobody?
There he is.
Holy smoke.
Now, just hold on, mister. We're going to get you to a hospital.
You move me, I'll break up in little pieces. But what a deal. Look, there's this dough, see? There's all this dough. 350 G's. Do you hear what I'm saying? 350 G's. In the park, in Rosita. Rosita Beach State Park. Just out of Dago in Santa Rosita. It's in this box. Buried under this... buried under this big W. You'll see it. You'll see it under this big W. You can't miss it. A big W. And it's been there, and it's been laying there for 15 years.
I'm your friend.
Oh, he's so neurotic. Can't you do something? Oh, yeah, Jack.
He's very neurotic. I'm your friend.
Get my hands on you. I tell you,
Why, that's it. Sure. Look. It's a big W, I tell you. It's a big W. Look at it.
Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, I say, it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say, it's alright.
And a mighty grand welcome to all the fellow decoders out there around the world. Wherever you are, my name is Logan, and this is Decode Your Reality. And today we're going to be breaking down and decoding part 2 of the Superstar. So be the Superstar Decoded Part 2, ladies and gentlemen. I have a jam-packed, gem-filled presentation for all of you. Some more groundbreaking material to be released during this presentation. So as I always say, it'll be well worth the time you spend in watching this presentation. Slap on a pair of headphones, get comfortable. I have no idea how long this is going to be, but it'll be well worth your time. And if you haven't seen the very first one, I would highly suggest that you watch that one first before you jump into the second one. So check this one out first. Many of you have. Obviously, that's probably why you're here. But if you haven't checked out the first one, I would suggest you go check out the first one before you get into this one. So let's hop into this one, ladies and gentlemen, and get into the topics of conversation. Obviously, I had a little bit of a movie in the very beginning from 1963. That's part of the intro and the first topic, the Big W. And so in the zero position, the intro, which is what we're doing now. In the number one position, the Big W. What did that mean? Why did I include that in the very beginning of this transmission? Well, you're about to find out what it has to do with the superstar. Number 2, 13. Number 3, the Bull. And of course, number 4, always love to hear what you see during these presentations. So let's start with the very first topic called the Big W. And the very reason why I had included this movie from 1963, it's one of my favorites from the old movies. If you haven't seen this movie, you should check it out. It's really, really funny. It's a great cast, great story. And there's a very specific reason why I included it in this decode. And if you'll just kind of read the top as I narrate this for you, is that you see this fictional Santa Rosa Beach State Park with its signature crisscross palm trees comprising the Big W amidst lush surroundings and featured in the 1963 comedy It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, was a landscape set built in 1962 in the backyard of the Hardin Gatehouse on Palos Verdes Drive South in Rancho Palos Verdes, otherwise known as the Portuguese Bend of California. This is a real place. And this is where they shot this. And folks, this is everything to do with the sun and the superstar. And I'm going to show you why that is as we move through this first topic. So here is letting the cat out of the bag. And some of you may have already probably found this by watching the first one and kind of putting 2 and 2 together and seeing that pattern, the dragon sine wave that the superstar makes as it moves through the sky. And, you know, over here obviously is the 12 months, 13 if you include December twice, because that forms a perfect signature pattern of this sun. And again, this is something I found. I believe it to be completely authentic. It's the sun taken on the same day of every month from the horizon perspective. And you'll notice that, you know, starting here in December and moving all the way down, and we have another December to kind of make it complete here. And you already know the reason why that is if you're watching the first one. But that forms the circuit, I feel. And if you put 2 of those together and kind of invert it here, or at least turn it on its side, there is the Big W. And of course, if you mirror that, you're going to get the Big M, and M is the 13th letter and W is the 23rd letter, not on accident, of course. 13 being tied to gold and the number 79. But there it is, the Big W. And why I feel that movie was playing tribute to the Big W and the money being buried under the Big W. And of course, if you want to break down the 350 G's, that has so much significance because it's tied to bromine. Bromine has an isotope of 79, and that's obviously tied to gold. But make no mistake about it, folks, there is letting the cat out of the bag. That's the shape that the sun makes as it moves around our planet. Whether it's flat, concave, a globe, it does not matter. It works on all the models, and I'm going to be showing that to all of you. What I thought was really interesting is when you say W phonetically. Here it is. Go ahead and just pause the video and you say it. W. W. That's how you say it, and phonetically that's how you spell it. And of course, as fate would have it, W excuse me, is the number 19, and there's the connection. Undeniable. This is the 19th card in the tarot. the sun card. How about that? So you can see, folks, that this code, again, is not coded by man. Man is being used to express the code. We're all being used, which is totally fine. Just enjoy the ride. But there it is. Something completely silly. Phonetically spelling out W, and there it is, the 19. That's how silly this code is. Here's another big truth bomb here, and here's the makeup of a light bulb, and this is obviously inside a light bulb. They used to use tungsten. We're going to get into that in a minute, but there it is, folks. There's the pattern of the filament in a freaking light bulb. A direct, not fudging it, not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. This is a direct match to the shape of this pattern that the sun makes as it moves through the months of the calendar, and the very reason why the light bulb has that same exact pattern. Then here's another version of it right here, another different looking light bulb. I mean, it's undeniable. There's the sine wave, the S wave, the dragon wave. That's how you know that these photographs are authentic. Right here, this should be ironclad proof that this is the real deal, and the photographs are the real deal, and nature is the boss, and then mankind is just being used to express the as above. It's right there in the light bulb, folks. You can't miss it. It's very predominant. So then you get into the wolf. Now, if you watched my Decode and Feed the Wolf, well, the wolf is the sun. Obviously, here is the tie-in for that. And it's this element right here called tungsten. And the abbreviation for tungsten is the letter W. Why would they do that? Because it stands for wolfram. That's because the sun's the wolf. And it's the 74th element on the periodic table, and there's that W, and here's the tie-in to the Jesus character and the Lucifer character. Personally, I'm leaning more towards Jesus being the moon, but that's for a different story. As I continue to do this research, ladies and gentlemen, things become a little bit more crystal clear, but in the makeup of the stories, of course, there you have it. So, folks, any of you that think that Lucifer is Venus, well, I don't know how you would kind of match that up, because this is completely shattering that kind of, theory or model. Lucifer is the sun, the devil, which is not even Lucifer. It's Hyll, Hyll. And there it is. You can't miss this, folks. It's right there, the big W in that movie. And of course, the money was buried underneath it. What is money? It's currency. What is the sun? Currency. What runs through a light bulb? Currency. What comes from the sun? Currency. What do we give off as human beings? Currency. Feed the wolf. It's right there. Right there, and you can't mistake it. Thought this was really interesting as well. Of course, the story of the Christ, the birthplace of the Christ, Bethlehem. Look at the latitude, longitude, 31 degrees north, 35 degrees east. Wolfram and tungsten. This is the original and the subordinate name for wolfram. Wolfram and tungsten are the names given to the 74th element. And there is the latitude, longitude. I mean, folks, you cannot make this stuff up right here. This should show you, without a shadow of a doubt, that our reality is absolutely and emphatically scripted, and it's not done by man. So the letter W, what about that letter W? Well, obviously, it's the 23rd letter in the English alphabet. And that's a direct tie-in to this word right there, named crown. What is that big V word going around on the world stage today? What do they call that thing? Well, it's the same thing they call the sun, corona. Corona's the crown. So, folks, where's all this stuff coming from? See, the whole entire reality that we're playing out is scripted. It's supposed to happen, good and bad. Isaiah 45:7. Go read that again if you don't believe me. So there it is right there. And if you go into, if you go into the letter W here, and you look at it in the primes, 83, and you look at the 83, and it's the 23rd prime number. So in the primes, there's that tie-in right there with the English and the primes. It's a direct tie-in there. And if you remember in my first Prison Planet Decoded, I showed that here is the recycle process, the sun, moon, and earth, and the total for the elements, the 19, 37, and 46, which is potassium, selenium, and molybdenum, was 208, which is tied to the 83rd element, bismuth. And there it is, undeniable. So it's tied to this right here, bismuth and the crown. So it's all connected, ladies and gentlemen. There is no separation to all of this. It's just all connected. And this should, right here, completely put a nail in the coffin, as I like to say. Where is that number 23 found in the string of pi? Well, it occupies 2 digits. Digit number 16 and digit number 17. And if you get out your calculators and add those up, you're going to come up with the number 33. 33, tied to the 23, tied to the letter W, tied to the big W, tied to currency, tied to light bulbs, tied to illumination, tied to the boss, which is the sun. That's what rules over this world. And so going back to this movie, and the reason why I included it again, it just hit me because I remember this movie. I have it saved on my computer. And I remember when I was decoding this pattern, I was like, oh, there's a W there. And then I remembered this movie. And that was the whole highlight of this movie, was there was 350,000 buried underneath a big W. This is a real location as well in California, which is the crown. If you lay the chakras over the United States, the crown chakra is going to lie on the state of California. Crown, corona, the sun. This is why this is the real deal kind of stuff. So I included this because of the W, but also I broke it down and I was laughing with all this stuff. Notice that it's in this area called Portuguese Bend, where they shot this location for this scene right here. So of course I'm going to find the location on the latitude, longitude, and here is the real picture of it. And this is in the shape of the W here. This goes out, and the road, I'm sure, when you drive out there, but look at what it makes. It makes that round curve right there, which you go back to that, and you have the round curve right there. Folks, this is why it's ridiculous, this code, and it's just laughable. But look at the coordinates of Portuguese Bend where they shot It's a mad, 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 mad world. It's 33 degrees north. And this should just get you laughing, show you how comical this reality is. And here's the actual movie itself. I could have went gangbusters on breaking down this movie, but here is the title and the numerology. Of course, it's number 67, 67. Not just any number. It's the freaking 19th prime number, which is tied to the sun card. So, you know, they're going after the cash. The cash is currency. Currency is backed by gold, and the gold is the sun, folks. And, you know, 67, if you've been paying attention, holmium, the ho-ho-ho, the Santa Claus element. This is the most magnetic element on the periodic table. There's so many layers to look at this. When you go really deep, of course, 6 plus 7 is 13. You get back to that 13 again, tied to gold through the string of pi. But how about that? Look at all this stuff, folks. You know, I mean, at what point do you draw the line? Just like you got to let go, because you're not in control of this reality. None of us are, folks. We're all just being used by the architect or architects, and has everything to do with the stars and the sun and the moon above our heads. Here's the lady, she's passed on now, who wrote the screenplay to It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Her name on the screenplay here is Tanya Rose, and she took William Rose, her husband, took his name. But here, when I did the digging, here is her real birth name. She's from Germany, Margaret Tatiana. And of course, I was laughing because it's a 39. And 39 is tied to the element potassium. And what's the protons of potassium? Oh, just the number 19, which is linked to the 19th card, the Sun card. You see how ridiculous this is? So who do you think gave her the idea to draft up this movie and write the screenplay on it? It's the little voice in her head, which is run by the Sun, the architect. And just to prove to you that the architect is Lucifer, just so we can be clear on that, you see her name being a 39. You see, you go to the Gematrinator calculator here, and you type in, this is the, right here, this is the original spelling of Lucifer. See, Lucifer is the Latinized version of this right here. The original in Isaiah 14 verses 12 is this right here. This is the original spelling of it now. It's a 30 frickin' 9. This is Halil or hell. This is how you would spell it in the English. Right there. And it's the frickin' 39. And in the HYLL is 190 in the primes. That's 19. It's the frickin' Sun, folks. That's the devil. That is Lucifer, the light bringer. The Sun brings light to the world. What weakens the nations? Radiation. That's what weakens the nations. Radiation kills us, folks. Lead to gold. We are all little devils. We're the lead. I mean, folks, it's just a big joke, is really what it is. To go even further, here is her birthday, May 20th. Of course, she's born in the sign of Taurus, and we're going to be getting into the Taurus because one of my categories is the bull. But what day of the year is May 20th? Well, it's just the 141st day of the year, which is pi itself, tied to the number 58. And what's 58? You've been paying attention. Oh, it's the freaking puppet master. That's right, it's the Sun. The Sun and the Moon, the architects. More than likely, it's just the Sun, but make no mistake about it, there it is. I mean, what are the odds that this lady being born on the 141st day of the year, born in the sign of Taurus, Taurus the bull, the Sun's the bull. Folks, I'll wait till I show you the bull. The pattern is there. The Bible. That's why the Bible has the two testaments and the old and new. It's just all right there. Here's the guy who, in the movie, located the Big W. All of them were after it. They were all in the park trying to find it. If you watch this movie, the entire cast, there was a lot of people that were at the end of this movie looking for this pot of gold, this money. And this is the guy who ended up locating the W in the park. And this was the scene right here, which I played in the beginning. And this is the guy, Jonathan Harshman Winters the third. Of course, you know, the subtleties. There's the 3, the third. But what's really fascinating about this guy right here is his birthday. Of course, because he was being used as well. He's got the 11/11 birthday, the November 11th. Of course, his last name is Winters. And the reason why I have it highlighted in red, if you've been paying attention, on the first Superstar Decoded, I showed that the birth of the Christ in that story was in the winter time in the Tropic of Capricorn, and it was December 21st. So this is his card right here. November 11th is the 9 clubs card. It's also December 21st, the beginning of the winter solstice. The beginning of the winter solstice. You see how much of a joke this reality is? I mean, are you freaking kidding me? He was born on an 11/11 birthday. He has the same birth card as December 21st, which is the winter in the Tropic of Capricorn. I mean, are you kidding me? Tied to the word Michael, tied to the word dragon. And let's not forget, here's the guy they casted to play Jesus Christ in the Broadway play that came out in the 1970s, Jesus Christ Superstar, Jeffrey Fenhol, born on September 15th, but he has the same exact birth card, the 9 freaking clubs card, the 22nd card in the deck. And that 9, it's a repeater number. It's a repeater number to keep this cycle going over and over and over. The box we live in, 1 through 9 is 45 equals a 9. It goes over and it goes on and on and on and on. But folks, what do you think the odds would be that this guy they casted to play Jesus Christ Superstar has the same birth card as the guy who found the W, that where the money was buried under it, and the W we know is linked to the sun's pattern? Folks, you see how much of a joke this reality is, and you just got to laugh. What more are you to do at this reality. You just got to let go, because your life is scripted. My life is scripted. To what degree? I don't have the answer. A lot of you have been asking, like, how much free will I don't know how much free will we have. I just know that our reality is scripted. Make no mistake about it. So let's get into the second topic, folks. If that didn't make you laugh, if that didn't floor you, I'm going to get into some real technical stuff, some real patterns in nature now, scraping away the dogma and forget about the biblical, the ancient text, any religious garbage, none of that stuff. Forget about all that stuff, because that has no relevance to nature and the patterns of nature. That's what runs this reality. The other stories in the ancient text, they're all artificially made by mankind, which is made by the architect anyway, because man's being used. But here's the real boss, the nature and the patterns of nature. And here's, here's the 13. Remembering that the pattern of the sun making that sine wave starting in December at its farthest away point and going to June and then going back down. And we know that it forms that line. December to December forms that line. And it forms a circuit. It gives us 13 months, not 12. The pattern of the 13. This is why the number 13 is so powerful. And it means magic through creation. That's what the 13 means. Magic through creation. And here's that line that I first brought out in the first Superstar Decoded. The purple line just connecting December to December. I know December is the 12th month. That's how we typically observe it. But if you just forget about the numbers being associated with those months, you can go in order and you'll have 1 through 13 right here, forming a circuit. And I showed that clearly in the first Superstar Decoded. So here, let's get into the patterns now. Let's get into the real McCoy, the real deal, folks. Forget about any kind of theoretical stuff or what we were taught in a book and what the book said. Forget about all that stuff. Let's just go right to nature again and look at the patterns and what it says. And here's the pattern that sun makes as it moves through the months on the calendar, going from expansion to contraction, expansion to contraction, expansion to contraction, winter to summer, winter to summer. And it expands and contracts. That's what this shape is. So I decided to kind of really show you how I feel the chakras would be placed as it moves through a cycle of 3. Now, obviously, if you miniaturized the chakras, they would maybe wrap around a 13th month cycle here. But right here is showing you 3 cycles of 13. Or if you wanted to just go down 3 cycles of 12, if you don't want to include that 13. This gets really tricky now because of the way the pattern is and the way you have to match up the sun on the horizon, and I'm going to be showing some more of that. But here are the cycles with these chakras. And there are 3 of these. Here's one cycle. Here's the second cycle. And here's the third cycle to show all 7 chakras. So 13 times 3, if you get out your calculators and add that up, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to get the number 39. And what's 39? Tied to the number 19 through potassium. Tied to the sun again. So I feel the sun, and of course it's going to make that the 8 pattern as well. The moon's going to be involved in here. But we're just talking about the sun. And when we connect the two, when we connect one cycle to another cycle to show more of what that zigzag dragon pattern looks like, here it is. And this would be 25 months, not 26. This would be 25 months. I'm not going to get too detailed about this, but I'm just showing you the patterns of nature. This is the patterns of nature, and this would be 2 cycles right there. And we'd have a third one if we put another one down there. And if you remember in the first Superstar Decoded, I showed the amazing animation of that sine wave using those balls of light. And then they move at the same time and they form that zigzag pattern. That's the way they move. That's the way the frequencies are in this reality. Everything moves in waves. It's all about waves. From the gamma to the infrared. That's light, and that is frequency. And I'm going to be bringing this into another decode showing light, showing the air that we breathe. But here's kind of a little bit of a graphic rendition of a few pieces here. Let me just narrate this for all of you. Just follow my narration. Of course, starting here in the top left, here is one cycle of 13 of that sine wave the sun makes. And there it is, right there. So I decided to, bring 3 of them together, just like this. And if we do another 3, that would be 33. And when you do 33 and you bend them all the way around, you end up having the chakras perfectly aligned. And you will have the 12 houses of astrology in here as well when you start dividing it in those 30-degree segments. So the astrology wheel fits right into this entire concept right here. If you're not a fan of the flat earth, if you're a fan of the globe, the model fits there as well. Here is that wave of the sun as it would be wrapping around the earth. Again, folks, it doesn't matter. Here's the globe model, or, the sphere model, the spherical model. Here would be the flat earth model. And this is where the crown comes in. This is why I have the photograph of the crown. And, that's why the crown of thorns is, these are the thorns. As it moves around the earth, round, flat, concave, doesn't matter. Not interested in that. This is provable here. This is useful information, for my opinion anyway. But the crown corona, there it is. Here it is on the flat earth model, if you fancy that. And obviously this is the pattern of the sun moving around as it goes and does this pattern, this zigzag dragon wave, over and around the flat earth model. This is, to me, undeniable. This is factual. This is really what it does. And again, it'll fit. If you're not a fan of that, it'll fit on that. It'll just wrap around. Right? And then here's kind of another graphical rendition of the sun as it moves. And here's where you're going to get the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, up and down, contraction and expansion as it moves around the earth and forms the crown of thorns. And this is, folks, to me, undeniable truth right here. This is real science, real mathematics, real shapes, not something that somebody told you from interpreting it from a book. Forget all that nonsense. This stuff's the real McCoy. This is the real deal stuff right here. When you kind of put 2 and 2 together. The energy centers, and this is it right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. So going back to that 13 again, we have the 13 months forming that complete zigzag shape. The first one anyway. And I have a feeling it's tied to this element, carbon. Of course, 6 is the makeup of the hive. And we're all the little bees working for the queen. And this carbon 13, if you don't know anything about carbon 13, here it is. You go read about it. It's got 6 protons and 7 neutrons. 67, of course, is holmium, and it's the 19th prime number. So this has a lot of merit when it comes to this 13 right here. And because carbon, the average is 12. But there is a very important 13 right there. And remember, if we take 6 and we add the 13, you're going to get 19, which is going to go right back to the sun again. And there it is, the sun card, the 19th card. 6 protons added to the 13 of the weight of this carbon 13. It's the 19. And that's why I know this has a lot of merit and why it's really relative to this entire decode. And then, most of you know, as you have decoded on and on like I have, using the string of pi, the number 79 appears at the 13th decimal digit, not the 12. 79 is gold. We know the sun is gold. That's obvious now. And this should tell you that it's not 13, it's 12. I mean, it's not 12, it's 13. It's both. It's going to be 12 and 13 numbers encroach, they bleed, but clearly in the numbering system, the gold is linked to the number 13. I mean, 13 and 14, which is 27, which is currency. But it's also linked to the Last Supper. This is a direct match to this pattern of the sun. And you have, 6 people on the right, 6 people on the left. Of course, the rendition, this is supposed to be the Christ. Here's where that character would sit. It would be in the month of June. I've just placed the number 13 there because they say he was the king of the Jews. And he could be, it could be the number 7 as well. And 7 is obviously linked to Libra in the classical lineages of the months. But here it's June, when the sun is right here in the highest form of the sun in the expansion measures of the Tropic of Cancer. Those of you the Tropic of Capricorn, this will be your winter time. But I feel that the blue and red there is obviously indicating the Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, going back and forth and creating that S wave. So this to me is undeniable right here, ladies and gentlemen. The rendition of the Last Supper. The Last Supper is right there in nature. So forget about all the people in here and all this other kind of good stuff. This is what's going to be the boss. This is what this is drafted over and after, is this right here, the patterns of nature. This is just kind of an allegory of the sun. Was there really a dude named Jesus? No way to prove it. Maybe. I'm not going to deny it, but there's no way to prove it. You see, this we can prove because it's right there. This was a painting. I wasn't there when they painted this. Neither were you. And when they painted it, none of these people were there. But this is here. Every single day of our lives, it's there, staring you in the face. This is what we can rely on. This, watered down. We don't know, but this we do know. And there's the rendition of the kings. Jesus is known as the King of the Jews. Well, the first king in the lineages of the cards is the King of Hearts. And, when you add them all up, 13 plus 26 plus 39 plus 52, you're going to get the number 130. That's Xenon. That's this 54. And if you've been following this great research, Sun, Moon, and Earth is 54. The little voice in your head, that owns you. That's Xenon, the stranger in your head. So going further with this shape right here, this is where the dollar bill came. Of course, because this is money. This is currency. That's why money used to be backed by gold. Gold is the rendition of the sun. Gold is the so below. The sun is the as above. Currency being 27. Those of you that have the septenary fans, there's that character's name. It's just currency, folks. And then the 1988 medicine card deck, as fate would have it, the dragonfly, the great dragon, Michael and the dragon. It's all one and the same, folks. 27. What are the odds? Well, very good, because this entire reality is scripted. And going further, here it is, the element cobalt tied to the puppet master. This is the chaos and order element, of course, because the sun is chaos and order. And cobalt, when you go and study the element cobalt, it's going to be tied to these dragons and the goblin. And the goblin is going to tell you that it is chaos and order. The chaos and order is going to be the alter ego. It is going to be the good cop, bad cop. And that's what you have with the Jesus Lucifer character. Showing more extensions of this currency being 27, the full alphabet in the Chaldean using the same cipher, 103. Here's the tie-in. That's why, personally, I have been saying this and I will keep saying it. Chaldean is the top dog cipher above every single one of them. Doesn't mean the other ones don't have merit, but if you're a decoder and you're starting out, you should be using Chaldean exclusively to get your patterns down and then branch off and start using the other ones, because it can get really tricky. But obviously you can see right there, and there's the 13, drop the 0. You can't miss this. The patterns of the 13 and currency, and you really can't miss this. Here is the Fibonacci sequence, the golden spiral. What is this spiral made up of? Golden. Gold is the sun. So we get into the Phi sequence. And here is the what I feel to be the Masonic numbers. And we go here is the G in Francis Bacon. The capital is 33, which I believe is the reason why it sits in the middle of their square and compass. But there is the numbers add up to the 33 using the golden spiral, and it ends on the number 13. You add it all up, you get the 33. So folks, it's just undeniable, and that, that G spiral, as it moves, the G is tied to, the great spiral, and so many other different formats you can look at through the expressions of that letter G. So let's get into this last topic now, called the bull. This is going to be a short topic. And here is the big giveaway now, and why Taurus the bull. You Taurians out there, and remember the lady that wrote the screenplay for It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, born in the month of May 20th, tied to the sun and the bull. I mean, there's the bull and Taurus and the symbol. Taurus is 22, Michael is 22, Dragon is 22. 22 is tied to titanium, but when I take that symbol right there and I place it right over the pattern of that sun, folks, do you think that I'm trying to fudge that? Can you see that right there, the pattern? That's undeniable right there. And when you take Taurus and you tie it to titanium, you're going to get it's going to tie to Saturn. And there's a whole different story that opens up for all that kind of stuff. That's going to be another decode. But you notice here that, titanium has several weights. 2 of them is 46 and 47. That's tied to the tree of life and tree of knowledge, because that's exactly what we're all living out down here. Tied to the pattern of the sun, the as above, the father, the architect, the son, the boss. You can call it Lucifer, Jesus, whatever you want to call it, but make no mistake about it. It's the architect, it's the boss, the sun that rises, the savior that rises every day. And it's the devil, because it will scorch you. But it's tied to Taurus, and that pattern is undeniable right there as it moves through the sky. And when you go further, folks, remember, if you're a fan of astrology, the second house of astrology is Taurus. The second house is tied to duality, because we live in duality. 2 is tied to duality. 2 is tied to the ovaries and the testes. 2 is tied to procreation and subduing the earth. And Taurus, that owns the second house, is owned and operated by Venus. And this is where I feel Venus is tied to Lucifer. Right here. Lucifer to me is directly the sun. But when you bring in Taurus and the patterns of this, and you realize that Taurus is owned and operated by Venus, and Venus runs the reproductive system. And there it is. And that looks a hell of a lot like a bull's head right there. Most certainly does, and most certainly is. And it most certainly fits in the pattern of that sun making the sine wave. It's right there. You can't miss it, folks. Just go right back up. There is Taurus. Taurus is tied to the bull, the Bible. The Bible has the Old and New Testament, the 2 horns representing the sine wave, representing the reproductive system, and why we're told to procreate, because there needs to be more cells for the battery to charge the sun. And there it is. And as all of you know, watching my decode on the first Superstar Decoded, or no, it wasn't Superstar Decoded, it was Prison Planet 2. But I showed the female reproductive system and the hangman being tied to that, and the seed coming out, and the sun and moon have everything to do with that. We come out head first, born into this world, born into the circle. Circle is 17, life is 17, matrix is 17, and we're all born as stars from the sun. We're sun stars, and we're born through procreation. And that is what Taurus is all about. That's why the stock market is got the bull. Stock market was born. The New York Stock Exchange was born in the month of May. Folks, it's all right here. This is the real deal stuff you're seeing right here. You can see the pattern. I mean, it's really undeniable as it moves through the sky. Of course, Leo's going to fit there as well. If you take the sign of Leo, it'll fit there. Go ahead and get your Leo symbol. It'll fit right in there as well. But not as good as Taurus, and there it is. And this is why I know, the sun ends up we incarnate from the sun and the moon. We end up procreating. We end up humping in this reality. We create babies that are born into the circle, the perfect circle. And we're born into life. And remember, Matrix is 17, and there is the circle that we're born into, which is a representation of Earth. Taurus is the second astrology sign. This is why Titanium 22, it's just a hierarchy of the two. Folks, you can't miss this when you know numerology, when you know astrology, when you know the tarot, and now when we know the patterns of the sun, it becomes absolutely undeniable that this is what rules over us. The sun, astrology, numerology, numbers, symbols, that's what rules over us. And this is undeniable right here, folks. Woo! So what did you see during this presentation? I'd love to hear your take on what you saw. I probably missed some things, like I always do. But what did you see during this presentation? I went over a lot of information. The sun's pattern, the Last Supper, the 13. Went over this superstar, this movie, the screenplay writer. I mean, folks, it just gets the location. It just gets ridiculous. And it's all tied to this big W. And, remember, W's tied to the Triple Crown. The Triple Crown in sports. The crown is the corona. That's why Christ wore the crown of thorns. And tied to Wolfram, feed the wolf. Now you know. What's the wolf? It's the sun. And the wolf has the dark and the white, both contraction and expansion. Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn. It's all right there, ladies and gentlemen. Love to hear what you saw. There it is in the light bulbs. And, it's undeniable. It's right there in the patterns fashioned after the things that men make. So, anyway, folks, that's all I got for today. My name is Logan. This is Decode Your Reality, and I thank each and every one of you for your donations, Patreons. Those of you that want readings, just send me an email. My email is decodeyourreality@gmail.com. Just be patient. I'm really backed up with requests on that. But anyway, folks, that's all I got for today. Until next time, we'll see you later.